Hello everyone, today I'm going to introduce you guys how we can hack or exploit the Windows system remotely. So first of all, SMB, also called Server Messaging Block, is a service which runs on the port number 445 on the Windows system, and there exists like the versions of SMB version 1, SMB version 2 and 3. And the usage commonly for the port 445, or also called SMB service, is for file sharing, printer sharing, network browsing, Active Directory, also called AD. So that's how basically the server messaging block SMB works for the Windows systems. Hello, in this video I'll show you guys how we will exploit the Windows 7 system remotely with the Metasploit-Framework. So first of all, we will need to scan our network for Windows machines and find vulnerabilities in them specific to the Eternal Blue SMB vulnerability. So we first will write nmap, this PN, and then the port 445, and then the script to find the vulnerability. And then we will write our IP address range. For example, my IP address, private IP is here, and the appending number here means we will scan the whole network. So if you guys can see here, that's my Windows machine. If I write cmd, and I will write ipconfig, that's also the IP address, private IP address of the Windows machine, but it's on the same network as my Kali Linux machine. But now if you will scan, for example, we discovered open port on this IP address, which is my Windows 7 machine. And as you guys can see here, we have found a vulnerability in this specific IP address here, and the port is open, as you guys can see here. So we have actually found that it's vulnerable to Eternal Blue. So now we can open the Metasploit-Framework. And we will search for Eternal Blue. And we will use this exploit. Clear the screen. And options. So we can set up the exit function or private IP where we will receive the reverse shell. And there's also the a local port that we listen on. And this is for verifying the target. And this is for verifying if the architecture of the system is right. And then we can also specify the username and password to log into the SMB server, and also the domain. And this is the target port that we can specify. So some of the ports sometimes can be 139, 135, 137, but mostly SMB is always 445. And ours is our target IP address that we need to set up. So if I set it up, we need to write actually the IP address we scanned, which is vulnerable by the nmap scan. So this is basically this IP address of the target machine. And we can also set the payload to a different payload. So just to know, but we will just exploit the system just right now. So another script will be used to check if it's vulnerable. But we already found a weakness inside with nmap, so we actually don't need to do it. But I would just let it to that we'll still scan for vulnerability. So nmap like make a false scan. As guys can see, it's targeting and exploiting the system as we are talking. And then the Metasploit session opened here, and it has center stage and allocated in the memory the shellcode of our Metasploit malware or reverse shell. Now we have full system control. If you write, for example, a screenshot, you can see in our folder. Sorry, that's the wrong. Yeah, actually, that's the right system. This one is the system. This guys can see here. So it's the same identical one. So we can do more options. This guys can see here. Get system, for example. Then we're already running a system privilege, so we have actually kernel privilege. And we can also record the microphone or list the webcams and also look at the webcam and do many other things. So in this video, I will show you guys how we can exploit the Windows XP system. As you guys can see, that's the IP address of the Windows XP system. So what we can also do is actually scan for the vulnerability in the Windows IP address of it. What we can do is write nmap BAPN port 445 script SMB vulnerability MS 08067 and then the IP address. If you guys want to scan the whole network, you guys just append it with the one behind and also 24. But I know the IP address, so I will just do 133. As you guys can see here, that's the IP address of it. And you guys just hit enter. As you guys can see here, the port is opened here. As you guys can see, apparently it has a vulnerability to remote code execution. So we can open the MS console now and try to find the vulnerability to it. We will search Net API. We will use this one. We will set our host. First, I will show you guys the options. So the options are here. The R host is the target that we need to specify. Let's run it to see if it works. As you guys can see, it won't work against the target because the target is also x64-bit system, and we cannot actually set the payload to a 64-bit one. As you guys can see here, if I try to set it to a different one and also run it, it says this payload specifier payload is not valid. So what we can do is actually we can try to actually scan it for the Eternal Blue vulnerability. But we will use the PS execute as we will target the pipes inside the system. So actually we can also scan the vulnerability of it for the MS 17010. See if it's vulnerable to the Eternal Blue remote code execution. As you guys can see here, it's actually vulnerable. And we can actually then paste its IP address inside the PS execute. So it's a bit different than normal Eternal Blue, as it will target the pipes inside the SMB service. As you guys can see here, we can also specify the shares and anything else here. And also the name pipes we can specify normally here, and also there's a word list for it. But we will just do it simply and just run the exploit and see if we can get remote access. And as you guys can see here, we have a Metasploit shell, we have remote access. If we will write screenshot, for example, we can see the screenshot of the Windows XP system. And now we have full control and full system access. We can also write system info to get the system information about it. Let's actually go into a shell and write system info. It has the system information. Microsoft Windows XP Professional 64 Edition, build 3790, Service Pack 2. Hello guys, in this clip we're gonna exploit the Windows Vista system. So if we write WinVer, we can see the build 6002, Service Pack 2. Also, we can write ipconfig and we can see, for example, the IPv4 address here. As you guys can see, that's the IP address of it. So we can scan it like this. I will just paste it because I already made the command for the video. After the scan is finished, we can see if it's vulnerable or not. I will show in the next clip. So after we have scanned it, we can see that the Windows Vista is vulnerable to this specific script that we have scanned, CVE 2009-3103. It's vulnerable. So after we found out that it's vulnerable to this kind of attack, we can actually go to MSF console to open the exploit console. Let's clear the window and we can search for the SMB. Let's try to find it. We can see it here. Difference. So now it's here. We can choose this one. We can look at the options. Let's set our host to the host that we want to attack, which has this IP address. As we have scanned also, I will set the wait time to 10 seconds for running the exploit. I will set the exit function to process. And let's clear this and let's try to run it and see if we can get access. So most Windows Vista systems we call get access, but sometimes you call not get access, and then we will use different SMB-Exploit tool. As guys can see, it doesn't work, so we can maybe try to use as execute. As guys can see here. Let's see if it has a vulnerability against this one. List the options again. Set our host. And then we set the IP address, of course. And let's try to exploit it. And as guys can see, we have actually Metasploit shell on the system, and we can also see the screenshot as shown here. So that's the Windows Vista system. Equal one as we can see here, and then yes, we have full access and we can do anything inside basically. In the next clip I will show you guys how we exploit the Windows 8 or 8.1 system. So this is my Windows 8. If you write ipconfig, that's the IP address, and we will need to actually know the username and the password to log in. It won't else work with it. By default, anonymous access into the SMB service isn't allowed. So if I write rootmy, that's the username of the system. So you can, for example, open MSF console for now. And sometimes when we do like a scan, like for example this, np scan vr to the IP address of the Windows 8, we can see from the username that maybe sometimes the username could be like that. And we could maybe find a way to crack it with the tool called crackmap execute. I won't show it now, but there are also other ways if you guys in the network with a responder to actually listen to the connection when the victim would enter something falsely inside their system. But I will only show the way how we can exploit it if we already actually know the username and password of the victim. So we will use eternal blue. We will set the rhost to the IP address of the victim. And we will set the password I know, which is low. We will set the username to dogsnet1, which is also the username, as you guys can see here. And we will just run the exploit. And it will show we need to specify our target. We can specify our target all like this with the set command here. If it doesn't scan for the right target, as I see here. And we just run it. As you guys can see, we have access. If you write wmi, this question is shown on write wmi. You will see we have kernel privilege access, and we can also, for example, write system info, get system information. You can see here Windows 8.1. In this video, we will exploit the Windows 10. So if I go to the command line here, write ipconfig, that's the IP address. And also the Win version, if we see, is the 1903. So it works only on this one, and also on the 1909. And the tool that we're going to download to exploit is from here. So we will go to our Kali machine, and we will open terminal and write git clone to clone the page. I already have the page actually installed, as you guys can see here. So I'm gonna just cd inside here, inside that folder. And also we will need to actually install the requirements so that we can actually interact with the Python exploit tool. Sorry, my computer is a little bit slow. And after you guys have done it, we will clear the screen, and then we can use this specific Python exploit here, Python 3. Now if you hit on it, you guys can see the options. I is for IP, port is for port number, check is to check the exploit. And then there's also the arch and the shell code that we can choose, or we can also load the shell code and so on. There are different options. But what we're gonna do is use this command. Ghost.py and then we will write the IP address. As you guys can see here, I already did it before, and we will check it, and also use the E option. And now we will also choose the arch. So we will let the script load its own shell code to exploit. So the arch is 64. There also exists Windows X32-bit, so it depends on the architecture, and the port is 445, and we will check also. And then the IP address is here, and we will exploit and execute now. Now we will also need to write our localhost IP address. So our localhost IP address can be this one. And then we will write also the port that we want to listen to with netcat. And we will also write the target architecture, which by default is this. So I hit enter. And this will now create an MS Venom payload specifically in a hex format for us to exploit. We can also now turn the listener on the port 447 as listed here. So now we will try to exploit it if we continue. So anyways, the target windows can crash sometimes, so guys, you need to try a lot of times until you guys can establish a connection to this system by the exploit. So now we hit enter. Now let's see if it crashes or not, because it can crash definitely. And now if we execute shellcode here, press the key to execute shellcode. As you guys can see, it has crashed, so I will try many more times and then show you guys the time where it was successful. So let's run the exploit this time again. So I have my netcat listener here and also the exploit that we're gonna run on the system to get remote code execution. And we will put the hours, which is my logo, and then the port architecture. Let's try it again and see if we can actually seed into getting a reverse shell from the Windows system to our Kali machine. And as you guys can see here, we have actually control over the system. If we write, for example, who am I? We have kernel privilege, as you guys can see here. And also if we write, for example, IP config, you can also see the IP address of the system, which is also here. So now we have gotten actually a netcat reverse shell. So you guys can also make a Metasploit shell for it, but you guys will need to put the shell code inside and know how to execute it. So now we have actually pawned the system in this way and have full system control.